The homes we've been exploring previously relied on open hearths for warmth and light. But a significant shift occurred with the adoption of fireplaces and chimneys, fundamentally altering how people lived and interacted within their dwellings. This technological advancement wasn't merely about comfort, it sparked broader changes in society and architecture. Early medieval buildings required high ceilings to manage sparks from central hearths. Heat dissipated upwards, often lost through louvers meant for ventilation. The fireplace and chimney, increasingly common in the 12th century, reduced the number of people able to gather comfortably around a fire by nearly 3/4, shrinking room sizes considerably. While some heat still escaped up the chimney, it was less than with an open hearth. Smaller rooms could be built with lower ceilings, distributing warmth more evenly. With precautions against drafts, these smaller spaces proved more efficient at heating and safer from accidental fires. This shift had profound consequences. The fireplace fostered a preference for smaller, more intimate rooms, encouraging greater privacy among household members. Architectural designs evolved to accommodate this new focus on enclosed space, moving away from the large communal halls of earlier periods. This wasn't limited to the wealthy. As chimneys became more widespread, they began appearing in homes across various social strata. The adoption of chimneys also led to changes in daily routines and even influenced artistic representations of domestic life, reflecting a growing emphasis on individual comfort and privacy within the home. The increased prevalence of chimneys also influenced construction practices beyond individual dwellings. Larger buildings, such as markets and guild halls, began incorporating fireplaces to provide warmth and a focal point for gatherings during colder months. Records from London Bridge estate deeds indicate that some commercial properties featured fireplaces with elaborate mantels, suggesting a desire to project an image of prosperity and comfort, even in public spaces. Illustrations within illuminated manuscripts further reflect this trend. Depictions of town scenes increasingly show buildings with chimneys, signifying their integration into the urban landscape. While initially a feature reserved for wealthier households, the gradual adoption of chimneyed structures across various social strata demonstrates a broader shift in priorities towards domestic warmth and convenience. The presence of fireplaces also influenced building design, often necessitating dedicated spaces for wood storage and ventilation shafts, further transforming architectural layouts. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered domestic life. Early medieval buildings relied on central hearths for warmth, a design that necessitated large rooms with high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting the structure. However, this approach proved inefficient. Heat dissipated upwards, and vents intended to remove smoke also released valuable warmth. The shift towards fireplaces and chimneys in many homes during the 12th century marked a significant change. While still imperfect, some heat inevitably escaped through the chimney. It was a considerable improvement over the open hearth. This new technology reduced the number of people able to sit comfortably near the fire, leading to smaller rooms with lower ceilings, which distributed warmth more evenly and lessened the risk of fires. The impact extended beyond mere comfort. The fireplace fostered a preference for smaller, more intimate spaces within homes. It also influenced building design, requiring dedicated ventilation shafts and contributing to a growing desire for privacy among occupants. Records indicate that even public buildings incorporated fireplaces. London Bridge estate deeds mention elaborate mantels in commercial properties, suggesting a display of prosperity. Illustrations from illuminated manuscripts increasingly depict buildings with chimneys, reflecting their integration into the urban landscape. The chimney's presence also influenced building design, often necessitating dedicated spaces for wood storage and ventilation shafts, further transforming architectural layouts. The integration of chimneys into domestic architecture also influenced daily routines and social interactions. While fireplaces provided warmth and light, they demanded constant attention. Someone had to be responsible for tending the fire, adding wood, regulating airflow, and removing ashes, a task often assigned to servants or junior members of the household. The need for fuel became a significant consideration. Homes required dedicated storage spaces for firewood, typically located near the hearth itself. Records from London Bridge estate deeds indicate that some commercial properties included specialized areas for wood stacking, reflecting the importance of this resource. Furthermore, chimneys were susceptible to blockages. Bird nests and accumulated soot could obstruct airflow, leading to smoke inhalation and potentially dangerous conditions. This necessitated regular inspections and cleaning, a task increasingly undertaken by individuals specializing in chimney maintenance, the nascent profession of the chimney sweep. The presence of these sweeps became an accepted feature of urban life. Their service is essential for ensuring safe and efficient heating within homes. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces brought changes to home construction and daily life, but also introduced common problems for homeowners. While offering advantages over older central hearths, less heat loss, and reduced fire risk, chimneys required ongoing maintenance. One frequent issue stemmed from their function: debris accumulation. Chimneys vented smoke and combustion byproducts, but this process drew in dust, soot, and other materials carried on air currents. Over time, these deposits built up within the flue, restricting airflow and increasing the risk of dangerous creosote buildup, a highly flammable substance. Homes utilizing gas fires, a technology becoming increasingly prevalent, also presented concerns. Careful monitoring was needed to ensure proper combustion and prevent incomplete burning, which could lead to carbon monoxide production. Chimney sweeps were often called upon to inspect gas fittings and flue conditions for these hazards. Furthermore, chimneys were vulnerable to blockages from natural sources. Birds frequently built nests within chimneys, obstructing airflow and posing a safety risk. These obstructions necessitated intervention not only from chimney sweeps, but also occasionally from specialized craftsmen who could dismantle portions of the flue to remove stubborn nests or debris. The construction itself was susceptible to issues beyond simple blockage. The mortar binding bricks or stones within the chimney stack could degrade over time due to heat, weather, and seasonal temperature fluctuations. This weakened the structure, creating cracks that allowed smoke and gases to leak into living spaces, a serious health hazard. Homeowners often relied on sweeps to identify these structural flaws during routine cleanings. The materials used for construction also impacted longevity. Chimneys built with inferior clay or poorly fired bricks were prone to cracking and crumbling. The positioning of chimneys within dwellings presented challenges. While fireplaces offered a degree of privacy, their placement dictated room layout and airflow. Chimneys frequently intersected multiple rooms, necessitating careful planning to avoid drafts or smoke intrusion into adjacent areas. This sometimes resulted in awkward spatial arrangements as homeowners attempted to integrate the chimney's structural requirements with desired domestic functionality. The proximity of hearths and cooking fires occasionally contributed to poor ventilation and increased exposure to soot and smoke, potentially exacerbating respiratory ailments among household members. The development of heating within dwellings underwent a significant shift during the medieval period. Early structures relied on central hearths, which necessitated high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting flammable materials. However, this design proved inefficient. Heat dissipated upwards, and vents intended to exhaust smoke also released valuable warmth. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys in many homes beginning in the 12th century marked a turning point. This innovation reduced the number of people able to gather comfortably around a fire, leading to smaller rooms. While some heat loss still occurred through the chimney, it was considerably less than with an open hearth. Smaller rooms could be constructed with lower ceilings, distributing warmth more evenly and diminishing the risk of fire hazards. The shift towards fireplaces fostered a change in domestic architecture and social practices. The new technology affected society and altered medieval life. Chimneys facilitated the creation of smaller, more private spaces within homes. This design also allowed for better heat distribution compared to large halls, with central hearths where most warmth rose toward high ceilings. Evidence suggests that chimneys were incorporated into various structures, including royal residences and monastic buildings, indicating a growing demand for both comfort and privacy among different social classes. The presence of chimneys in almonries and prisons highlights the broader adoption of this technology beyond elite dwellings. The incorporation of chimneys into structures extended beyond residential and ecclesiastical buildings. Their presence is documented in prisons and almonries, suggesting a broader adoption across social strata. Evidence from London Bridge estate deeds indicates that chimney construction became integrated with commercial architecture as well. Records detail shops featuring fireplaces on the ground floor, likely intended to provide warmth and enhance the display of goods for customers. These structures suggest an evolving understanding of domestic comfort and its intersection with economic activity. Chimneys also appeared in depictions of medieval life, such as in illustrations within illuminated manuscripts like the Pontificat Senonense and other French miniatures from the 15th century. These visual representations portray town scenes where chimneys are visible on both commercial and residential buildings, further illustrating their increasing prevalence. While the precise origins of chimney sweeping remain obscure, the expanding use of chimneys necessitated a corresponding rise in individuals tasked with maintaining them. The adoption of the fireplace and chimney fundamentally altered medieval building practices. Early structures relied on central hearths, which necessitated high ceilings to manage sparks and vent smoke. However, this design proved inefficient. Heat dissipated upwards, wasting fuel. Rooms with louvers further exacerbated this issue. The shift towards fireplaces in many homes during the 12th century marked a significant change. While some heat loss still occurred through chimneys, it was considerably less than that of open hearths. Moreover, chimneys reduced the risk of fire and allowed for smaller rooms built with lower ceilings, distributing warmth more evenly. This technological advancement had broader societal implications. The construction of chimneys fostered the development of smaller, more private spaces within homes. As noted in a study examining medieval England, the number of people able to sit comfortably near a fireplace was reduced by nearly 3/4 compared to the large halls with central hearths. This shift diluted the functional capacity of larger rooms and contributed to an increasing demand for privacy among residents. The chimney also facilitated changes within other structures. Records indicate that chimneys appeared in latrines, providing warmth and acting as conduits for waste disposal. Further evidence suggests that fireplaces became a standard feature in chambers reserved for important individuals, such as the king's chaplains or knights, demonstrating their growing status symbol. The construction of chimneys also spurred innovation in related trades. Chimney masons developed specialized skills, crafting flues and hearths with increasing precision. Evidence from London records indicates that by the mid-13th century, chimney building had become a recognized craft, with individuals identified as chimneyers appearing in guild rolls. These artisans were responsible not only for constructing chimneys, but also for maintaining them, addressing issues such as smoke draw and structural integrity. The demand for skilled labor led to the establishment of apprenticeships, ensuring the transmission of knowledge across generations. Furthermore, the increased prevalence of fireplaces necessitated a greater supply of chimney liners, clay or stone tubes inserted within the chimney to protect it from heat and combustion byproducts. While early liners were often crudely constructed, records suggest that later examples demonstrate improved craftsmanship, with smoother interiors designed to enhance draft efficiency. The need for these components stimulated quarrying operations and pottery production in areas supplying building materials. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered domestic life in medieval England. Prior to this shift, homes relied on central hearths for warmth, a design requiring high ceilings to mitigate fire risk and allowing significant heat loss. With individual fireplaces, rooms could be made smaller, ceilings lowered, and heating became more efficient, though some heat was still lost through the chimney itself. This change reshaped social patterns within homes as large communal spaces diminished, with families increasingly gathering in smaller, intimate settings, warmed by fireplaces. The rise of this technology created a demand for skilled artisans to construct and maintain these new features. Early chimneys were rudimentary, but later examples demonstrated improved craftsmanship, reflecting an evolving understanding of draft efficiency and structural integrity. The need for chimney liners, clay or stone tubes, protecting the chimney from heat, further stimulated related industries like quarrying and pottery production. This burgeoning demand also meant homeowners began to rely on specialists for upkeep and repair, marking a shift in how dwellings were managed. A well-maintained chimney became a subtle indicator of prosperity. A household's ability to afford regular sweeping demonstrated a level of economic stability. While detailed customer testimonials are scarce, references within estate records occasionally allude to the importance placed on these services. For instance, one record from 1377 mentions 2 chimneys of plaster, one below in the gaoler's chamber, and another above in the part mentioned of the house, suggesting a deliberate investment in hearth technology beyond mere functionality. The presence of multiple fireplaces, particularly those with elaborate mantels constructed from imported tiles or fine plasterwork, further signaled affluence. Such decorative elements required specialized craftsmanship and ongoing maintenance to prevent damage from soot and smoke residue. These tradesmen also benefited from the increasing complexity of urban dwellings. Records indicate that some chimney sweeps were contracted not only for routine cleaning, but also for minor repairs to flues and smoke chambers, expanding their skill set within a household's maintenance network. Occasionally, disputes arose regarding the quality or timeliness of sweeping services, a testament to growing expectations surrounding domestic comfort and upkeep. One entry from 1402 notes a disagreement between a landowner and his sweep concerning insufficient removal of soot, prompting a subsequent inspection by a local official. Such instances highlight an emerging awareness of professional standards within this trade. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered medieval dwellings, impacting more than just comfort. Early structures relied on central hearths for warmth, a design that necessitated high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting timber roofs. While these large rooms could accommodate many people, heat quickly dissipated upwards, wasting fuel. The shift towards individual fireplaces in the 12th century marked a significant change. It reduced the number of occupants benefiting from the fire's direct warmth, but offered greater control over heating and lessened the risk of accidental fires. This new technology fostered smaller rooms with lower ceilings, allowing for more efficient heat distribution. Chimneys also facilitated improved ventilation, reducing smoke within the dwelling. The construction and maintenance of these chimneys became increasingly important as homes grew more complex. While chimney sweeps primarily removed soot and grime, their role expanded to include minor repairs to flues and smoke chambers, integrating them into a household's broader network of upkeep. This increased reliance on regular chimney maintenance was driven by both the desire for comfort and an awareness of potential hazards, namely, the risk of carbon monoxide buildup and degradation of the flue itself. The construction of chimneys presented new challenges regarding fire safety and structural integrity. While they diminished the risk of sparks igniting timber roofs, they introduced their own vulnerabilities. The flues, often constructed from clay tiles or stone, were susceptible to cracking and degradation over time due to thermal stress and exposure to corrosive byproducts of combustion. These cracks could allow smoke and dangerous gases to leak into the dwelling, negating some ventilation benefits. Furthermore, a buildup of soot within the flue created a significant fire hazard. Dry, compacted soot could ignite, potentially spreading flames throughout the house. Consequently, chimney maintenance extended beyond simple cleaning. Chimney sweeps were sometimes called upon to repair damaged flues using mortar or clay patches and occasionally to rebuild sections entirely. The quality of materials used in construction directly impacted a chimney's longevity and safety, highlighting the importance of skilled craftsmanship. The increasing complexity of chimney design also led to a greater emphasis on apprenticeship and the transmission of knowledge within families and guilds. Chimneys required careful placement in densely populated towns to avoid obstructing neighboring properties or creating fire hazards. Local ordinances sometimes regulated their height and construction materials. The visual impact of chimneys also became a factor in architectural aesthetics, with elaborate chimney stacks appearing on wealthier homes, signifying status and demonstrating investment in both comfort and appearance. The adoption of chimneys fundamentally altered domestic life, but their continued use presented new challenges for those responsible for their upkeep. While earlier hearths demanded constant tending and risked widespread fire, chimneys introduced a different set of concerns. The technology designed to improve safety and warmth now required specialized maintenance. One ongoing difficulty stemmed from the increasing complexity of heating systems within homes. As fireplaces became more common, so too did attempts to adapt them for gas fires, an innovation that introduced new risks. Maintaining these fixtures demanded a skill set beyond dealing with traditional wood-burning hearths, requiring sweeps to understand and address issues like blocked vents or faulty connections. Chimneys were also susceptible to blockages from natural sources. Birds frequently built nests within flues, obstructing airflow and creating a fire hazard. Removing these obstructions required careful maneuvering of tools and an understanding of avian behavior. The nature of the work increasingly necessitated specialized equipment beyond simple brushes and scrapers. Stricter safety protocols emerged as awareness grew regarding the dangers of working at height, leading to a demand for improved scaffolding and ropes. The need for these tools contributed to a shift in the profession towards greater specialization. Enclosed hearths also brought new challenges related to ventilation and structural integrity. Chimney design itself became a matter of scrutiny, as poorly constructed flues risked collapse or dangerous smoke spillage into living spaces. Furthermore, materials used, often timber framing encased in brick or stone, were susceptible to decay and damage from fire and weather. Regular inspection and maintenance were essential. The accumulation of soot within chimneys presented an ongoing hazard, while sweeps diligently removed it. Build-up remained a concern, particularly in areas prone to heavy coal usage. This necessitated frequent cleaning cycles, sometimes multiple times per heating season, placing considerable demand on both the sweep and his clients. The increasing complexity of chimney construction spurred innovation in ancillary trades. Specialized bricklayers developed techniques for more durable flues and decorative features around fireplaces, while plasterers refined methods for sealing chimneys against drafts. Furthermore, growing awareness of fire safety prompted investigations into alternative designs aimed at minimizing risk. Some experiments involved dampening chambers or strategically placed vents to control airflow. While the effectiveness varied, they reflected a broader societal concern for mitigating hazards associated with hearth fires. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces fundamentally altered building design and household comfort across medieval England. Prior to this shift, large rooms were heated by central hearths, a system that dissipated heat upwards through high ceilings, often exacerbated by vents intended for smoke removal. This method wasted fuel and left occupants exposed to drafts. With the introduction of fireplaces and chimneys in many homes from the 12th century onward, the number of people able to sit comfortably near a fire diminished, leading to smaller rooms with lower ceilings, a deliberate design choice focused on efficient heating. While some heat loss continued through the chimney itself, it was significantly less than that associated with open hearths. Beyond simply providing warmth, chimneys also reduced the risk of sparks igniting surrounding materials, allowing for more enclosed and safer living spaces. The construction of smaller rooms fostered a greater degree of privacy within households, a trend reflected in contemporary artistic depictions and documented shifts in social customs. While fireplaces offered clear advantages, their functionality was not immune to external factors. Like any system reliant on airflow, chimney performance could be affected by weather conditions. Particularly dry gas fires risked incomplete combustion, leading to increased soot buildup. Similarly, the presence of birds nesting within chimneys posed a hazard, potentially obstructing airflow and increasing fire risk, requiring periodic intervention from sweeps to clear obstructions. The construction of chimneys also necessitated regular maintenance to prevent hazards. The accumulation of soot, a byproduct of incomplete combustion, posed both a fire risk and respiratory concern for occupants. Chimney sweeps were employed to remove this buildup, a task particularly crucial after periods of heavy fuel consumption during colder months. While the practice was often undertaken by specialized tradesmen, household members occasionally performed rudimentary cleaning themselves, using tools like rakes and brushes. The presence of birds nesting within chimneys presented another recurring challenge. These nests not only obstructed airflow, but also created highly flammable material that could easily ignite if a spark found its way down the flue. Accounts from the period document instances where chimney fires resulted directly from bird-related obstructions, underscoring the need for periodic inspections and preventative measures. The removal of such nests was another task undertaken by sweeps, adding to their responsibilities beyond simple soot removal. The medieval home was shaped by the adoption of the fireplace and chimney. Early buildings relied on central hearths, which required high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting the structure above. This design also resulted in significant heat loss as warm air rose unchecked into the large room, often vented through louvers. The shift towards fireplaces and chimneys during the 12th century brought about a notable change. While some heat still escaped up the chimney, it was considerably less than that lost through an open hearth. Crucially, chimneys reduced the risk of fire from sparks, allowing for smaller rooms with lower ceilings, distributing warmth more evenly. The architectural impact extended beyond mere practicality. The need for a chimney fostered the development of smaller, more intimate spaces within homes. Rather than large communal halls, dwellings began to incorporate dedicated chambers heated by fireplaces. This trend towards enclosed and private areas reflected evolving social customs. Medieval society increasingly valued individual comfort and privacy. Chimneys also appeared in other structures beyond residences. Almshouses, for instance, incorporated chimneys into their design, providing warmth and a degree of personal space for the inhabitants. Shops were sometimes built with lower-level storefronts and upper living quarters, complete with fireplaces and chimneys, a testament to the chimney's integration into various aspects of medieval life. The integration of chimneys extended to more modest dwellings as well. Records from 1377 indicate that certain properties included sails, oves, chimneys, suggesting the presence of both salt and fireplaces, a combination indicative of a household with some degree of prosperity. Similarly, in Bruges during the mid-15th century, estate deeds documented structures featuring les flandriches tiles et plaster pour les mantelschides des avant-dites cheminées, referring to Flemish tiles and plaster for the mantelpieces of certain chimneys, a detail highlighting a regional preference for decorative elements, even within functional architectural features. Chimneys also appeared in unexpected settings, such as prisons. Accounts from 1492 mention wood being purchased uri wakey vijvergotes of wood, likely intended to fuel fireplaces, providing some warmth during the colder months. The presence of chimneys in prison structures suggests an attempt to mitigate the harsh conditions endured by inmates, albeit a limited one. Even within monastic settings, chimneys were not entirely absent. A medieval manuscript depicts a hall with a chimney, suggesting that even religious orders occasionally incorporated this heating technology into their buildings, though perhaps more for guest quarters than communal spaces. The adoption of chimneys fundamentally altered domestic life, and that shift extended to how those who maintained them presented their services. Early medieval homes relied on central hearths for warmth, a system requiring high ceilings to manage smoke and heat loss. The transition to fireplaces with chimneys in the 12th century brought about smaller rooms, more efficient heating, and reduced fire risk, a change that also influenced the way chimney sweeps marketed themselves. The shift towards enclosed spaces, fostered by chimneys, created new demands within households. While this technology offered advantages like better heat distribution and safety, it also necessitated regular maintenance to prevent blockages and ensure proper ventilation. This opened up a specialized trade, the chimney sweep. The increasing prevalence of chimneys meant that someone needed to clean them, removing soot and debris, a task often performed by children due to their smaller size. As chimneys became more common in homes across various social strata, those offering sweeping services began developing strategies to attract customers. These weren't formal advertising campaigns as we understand them today. Instead, reputation and word of mouth were paramount. A chimney sweep's ability to demonstrate expertise to clear a stubborn blockage or prevent a dangerous buildup of creosote was the most effective form of marketing. The very nature of their work, often dirty and potentially hazardous, meant that trust was essential for securing repeat business. The emphasis on demonstrable skill also extended to how sweeps presented themselves. While formal apprenticeships were uncommon, a sweep who could reliably clear difficult blockages and identify potential hazards, such as creosote buildup, earned a reputation that drew customers. A clean sweep implied not just the removal of soot, but also an assessment of the chimney's overall condition, offering peace of mind to homeowners concerned about fire safety. This practical expertise became a form of tacit marketing. Word-of-mouth referrals were the most valuable currency in this trade. The very nature of the work, dirty and often performed in cramped spaces, meant that trustworthiness was paramount for securing repeat business. The emphasis on demonstrable skill also fostered a degree of specialization within the trade. While some sweeps might handle all aspects of chimney maintenance, others focused on particularly challenging blockages or specialized repairs. This division of labor, though informal, contributed to a subtle differentiation in how sweeps presented their services. A sweep known for tackling difficult soot accumulations could command higher fees and attract customers facing similar issues. The very nature of the work, dirty and often performed in cramped spaces, meant that trustworthiness was paramount for securing repeat business. The work of a chimney sweep was once deeply interwoven with the seasons, a cyclical task performed primarily after heating seasons end. However, as fireplaces became more commonplace and homes were increasingly built around them, something began to shift. The demand for chimneys wasn't limited to spring cleaning anymore. It stretched throughout the year. This burgeoning need created an opportunity, the potential for chimney sweeping to become a service offered consistently rather than sporadically. Early on, sweeps often moved with the agricultural calendar, finding work where it was available and following the rhythms of rural life. But now, individuals began focusing more intently on securing consistent clientele within specific areas. The construction of smaller rooms facilitated by chimneys meant that homes required more frequent maintenance to ensure efficient heating and prevent dangerous accumulations of soot. This created a market for sweeps who could reliably provide this service year-round. While the core skills remained unchanged, assessing blockages, removing soot, and ensuring proper draft, the way these skills were presented started to evolve. The emphasis moved from simply completing the task to cultivating relationships with homeowners, assuring them of consistent availability and dependable work. The shift toward year-round service also necessitated a change in how sweeps organized themselves. While previously many operated as itinerant laborers, moving with seasonal agricultural work, an increasing number began to establish more localized bases of operation. This allowed them to cultivate relationships with homeowners and secure repeat business. Records indicate that some individuals started advertising their services within specific parishes or towns, marking a departure from the previous model of opportunistic labor. The emergence of these localized sweeps also fostered a degree of specialization. While all still performed the core tasks of cleaning chimneys, some began to develop reputations for particular skills, perhaps expertise in dealing with unusually complex flues or offering preventative maintenance advice. This nascent form of professionalization, though rudimentary by later standards, signaled a move away from simply being a seasonal worker toward becoming a recognized provider of a valued service. The localized nature of these emerging chimney sweep businesses also began to influence their presentation. Rather than simply offering a service, some sweeps started to identify themselves by parish or district, creating a sense of familiarity and local expertise. This branding, rudimentary as it was, fostered trust among homeowners who increasingly valued knowing the individual performing the work. Evidence suggests that certain sweeps even adopted simple marks or symbols to distinguish their services, though these were not formalized guild signs, a development still some time away. While the core business remained focused on soot removal and draft maintenance, this shift toward localized branding reflected a growing awareness of customer preference and the potential for building a reputation within a defined community. The rhythm of a chimney sweep's work was dictated by the seasons. The colder months, autumn and winter, were naturally the busiest time. Homes needed frequent tending to ensure warmth during long nights and harsh weather. But as spring arrived, and then summer, demand noticeably lessened. This wasn't simply due to warmer temperatures. It reflected broader shifts in domestic life. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys had fundamentally altered how homes were heated and used. Large central hearths, common in earlier medieval buildings, required high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting the structure above. These large rooms also dissipated heat rapidly when vents allowed for smoke removal. The shift towards smaller rooms with dedicated fireplaces, while improving heating efficiency, reduced the number of people who could comfortably gather around a fire. This meant that the need for frequent chimney cleaning diminished during warmer months, as families spent more time outdoors or in other parts of their homes. The seasonal ebb and flow also influenced the sweep's ability to travel. Spring brought opportunities for longer journeys, taking advantage of better weather conditions to reach villages further afield. However, this period was often punctuated by agricultural demands on both the sweep and the households they served, limiting available time for work. Summer typically saw a lull in requests, though some sweeps might still be called upon to address urgent issues or attend to wealthier clients who maintained year-round fires. The seasonal variations also influenced the types of repairs and maintenance sweeps were called upon to perform. While routine cleaning was more frequent during heating season, summer months often revealed issues that had gone unnoticed or been exacerbated by prolonged use. Dampness in chimneys, a common problem in older structures, could lead to soot accumulation and even structural deterioration. The warmer weather allowed for closer inspection and the opportunity to address these concerns before they escalated into costly repairs. Similarly, bird nests, a persistent hazard, were more easily spotted and removed during the summer months, when foliage obscured them less effectively. Accounts from the period occasionally mention sweeps being summoned not just for cleaning, but also for chimney mending or rebuilding, suggesting that their skills extended beyond simple soot removal to encompass basic structural repairs. The availability of materials like lime and clay, essential for such work, was often tied to seasonal cycles as well, further influencing when these tasks could be undertaken. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces fundamentally altered medieval dwellings, leading to smaller rooms with lower ceilings compared to earlier structures that relied on central hearths. While these innovations offered advantages like reduced fire risk and more efficient heating, they also introduced new challenges. One recurring issue was the intrusion of birds into chimney flues. These nests, constructed from readily available materials such as straw, twigs, and moss, posed a hazard. The accumulation of bird nests within chimneys exacerbated existing problems with soot buildup, already coating interior surfaces due to incomplete combustion of wood fuel. Nesting material further restricted airflow, increasing the risk of dangerous creosote formation, a highly flammable byproduct. Removing these blockages was not always straightforward. Some were firmly lodged, requiring considerable effort and specialized tools like hooks and scrapers. Dismantling portions of the chimney structure itself might have been necessary in extreme cases. The construction of chimneys also influenced urban dwellings. Evidence suggests that chimneyed structures often incorporated shops at ground level with living quarters above. These shops benefited from warmth radiating from fireplaces, creating a more inviting space for merchants and customers. While depictions in medieval art occasionally portray elaborate chimneys as features of grand residences, they extended to more modest urban dwellings. The increasing prevalence of chimneys necessitated specialized trades beyond general builders. Artisans skilled in chimney construction and maintenance became sought after. These individuals possessed working knowledge of masonry, ventilation principles, and building materials, skills passed down through apprenticeship and familial lineage. This demand fostered the emergence of a distinct occupation, the chimney sweep. The accumulation of soot and debris within chimneys frequently necessitated specialized cleaning procedures beyond household staff capabilities. Payments were occasionally made to individuals specifically tasked with removing bird nests and accumulated waste, indicating growing complexity in chimney maintenance. Early removal efforts likely involved manual extraction using tools similar to those employed today, adapted for medieval materials. The volume of nesting material sometimes encountered required considerable labor. In some instances, more drastic measures involving partial dismantling of the chimney's external structure were necessary, underscoring potential damage from neglected maintenance. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys brought about significant changes to medieval dwellings, impacting room size and heating efficiency. Early structures with central hearths required high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting surrounding materials. However, this design also resulted in considerable heat loss as warm air rose unchecked. The shift towards fireplaces and the accompanying chimney in many homes during the 12th century led to a reduction in room sizes and lower ceilings. While some heat inevitably escaped through the chimney itself, it was considerably less than that lost from an open hearth. Moreover, chimneys lessened the risk of fire hazards. This transition wasn't merely about comfort, it fundamentally altered building practices. The need for proper ventilation and flue construction created a demand for specialized knowledge. Chimneys required annual cleaning to prevent degradation and the accumulation of cement dust, a task often beyond the capabilities of ordinary household staff. This necessity spurred the development of a distinct occupation, the chimney sweep, whose expertise extended beyond simple soot removal. They possessed an understanding of masonry, ventilation principles, and building materials, skills passed down through apprenticeship and familial lineage. The accumulation of soot and cement dust within chimneys presented a persistent challenge to their functionality and longevity. While sweeps removed visible deposits, finer particles embedded themselves in the masonry, gradually degrading the flue's internal surfaces. This degradation risked reduced draft efficiency and increased the potential for dangerous creosote buildup, a highly flammable substance formed from incomplete combustion. Annual cleaning was therefore essential to mitigate these risks, a process that involved not only soot removal but also an inspection for structural defects such as cracks or displaced bricks. The sweep's expertise extended to identifying and reporting such issues to the homeowner, who might then engage a mason for repairs. This subtle constriction of the flue diameter, often difficult for a homeowner to detect without specialized expertise, highlighted the value of regular professional inspection. Beyond soot removal, sweeps would examine mortar joints between bricks, noting any signs of cracking or crumbling that might indicate structural weakness. They also assessed the condition of the chimney stack itself, looking for leaning or displacement caused by weather exposure or ground movement. Such observations were relayed to the homeowner, who then faced a choice: undertake repairs themselves, hire a mason, or accept the risk of continued degradation. The sweep's role extended beyond mere cleaning. They served as an early warning system for potential structural failures, contributing to both household safety and the longevity of buildings. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys marked a significant shift in medieval English homes, fundamentally altering living spaces and social patterns. Early buildings relied on central hearths for warmth, requiring high ceilings to manage smoke and heat dissipation. Rooms were large and inefficient, with much heat lost upwards. The transition to fireplaces and the chimneys that vented them brought about a gradual change. These new structures fostered smaller rooms with lower ceilings, allowing for more even heating and reducing fuel consumption. This shift had social implications as well. Large communal spaces gave way to smaller, more private chambers. With less need for a massive gathering area around a central fire, homes could be designed differently. Rooms became more intimate, contributing to a growing desire for privacy among inhabitants. Chimneys lessened the risk of sparks igniting surrounding materials, increasing household safety and allowing for greater flexibility in building design. The shift towards smaller rooms and chimneys also influenced building design beyond structural considerations. The presence of a chimney necessitated changes to roof construction, requiring robust timbers and specialized craftsmanship. This contributed to the rise of skilled tradesmen, chimney builders and repairers, who became increasingly sought after. Chimneys demanded greater precision than earlier hearths, fostering architectural refinement and spurring innovation in building techniques. Adjustments to window placement also occurred, contributing to the evolving aesthetic of medieval homes. Though heat loss through the chimney remained an unavoidable consequence, it was demonstrably less than that experienced with open hearths. Innovation extended beyond simple ventilation strategies. Some wealthier households incorporated flues within latrines, utilizing warmth generated by the hearth to mitigate discomfort and potentially reduce odors, a pragmatic application of the technology. Chimneys became a standard feature in monastic buildings, providing heating for almonries and serving as focal points for communal spaces. A 1377 record indicates chimneys were constructed both beneath a jail and above within a chamber, suggesting varied applications within enclosed structures. Similarly, Bishop Hatfield's survey mentions Deus sales over chimneys, indicating the presence of shops with chimneys alongside market stalls. These developments illustrate a broadening adoption of chimney technology beyond purely residential settings. Records indicate that in 1256, Henry built a chimney in the almonry at Clarendon. Chimneys appeared in shops used for luxury trades, such as silk, where goods could be displayed before customers seated near the fire. A French miniature depicts shops with chimneys and second-story living spaces. In 1377, a record notes chimneys were constructed beneath a jail and above within a chamber. The adoption of chimneys fundamentally altered building practices and social structures across medieval England. Early buildings relied on central hearths for warmth, a system that necessitated high ceilings to manage smoke and heat dissipation. This design limited room size and efficiency. Heat rose unchecked, leaving those seated near the fire partially warmed, while much energy escaped upwards. The shift towards fireplaces and chimneys in the 12th century brought about significant changes. While some heat loss still occurred through the chimney itself, it was considerably less than that of an open hearth. Moreover, chimneys reduced the risk of sparks igniting fires, allowing for smaller rooms with lower ceilings, a more even distribution of warmth. This new technology fostered a preference for enclosed spaces, diluting the functional capacity of large halls. The construction of chimneys wasn't solely confined to residential settings. Records indicate their presence in shops involved in luxury trades like silk, where goods could be displayed before customers seated near the fire. Chimneys also appeared within communal structures such as jails and chambers, demonstrating a broadening application beyond purely domestic use. Evidence suggests that even lower social strata benefited from this innovation, with chimneys appearing in almshouses alongside more affluent residences. The presence of chimneys became a marker of evolving living standards and architectural sophistication throughout medieval England. The presence of chimneys also extended to more modest dwellings and communal spaces, reflecting a broadening accessibility of this technology. Records from London Bridge estate deeds indicate the inclusion of chimneys within commercial properties, often situated above shops engaged in luxury trades such as silk, where goods could be displayed before customers seated near the fire. This suggests that chimney construction was not solely confined to residential settings, but also served practical and aesthetic purposes for businesses catering to wealthier clientele. Similarly, depictions within illuminated manuscripts, like those found in the Pontificate Senonense, portray town scenes with structures featuring chimneys, further illustrating their integration into urban landscapes. While these images offer a visual representation of chimney prevalence, they do not provide definitive information on construction quality or maintenance practices. Accounts from Thomas of Walsingham's Gesta Abbatum Monasterii Sancti Albani mention the provision of fireplaces within almshouses, demonstrating that even those of lower social standing benefited from this innovation. The presence of chimneys in jails is also documented, with references to fireplaces being constructed for prisoners alongside their use in chambers and other communal areas. These varied applications underscore the chimney's evolving role beyond purely domestic comfort, signifying a shift towards greater architectural sophistication and improved living standards across different social strata. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered medieval living conditions. Prior to this shift, homes relied on central hearths, which required high ceilings to manage smoke and heat dissipation. As described in a study examining technological development in England, these large rooms lost considerable warmth upwards, and vents intended for smoke release further exacerbated the issue. The introduction of fireplaces during the 12th century led to a reduction in the number of people able to sit comfortably near the fire, nearly 3/4 fewer, than with a central hearth, effectively shrinking the functional capacity of larger rooms. While heat loss through chimneys still occurred, it was significantly less than that from an open hearth. Smaller rooms with lower ceilings became possible, allowing for more even heating. The chimney also lessened the risk of sparks igniting fires. This new technology fostered a shift towards smaller, more efficiently heated spaces. One consequence was a change in social dynamics. The communal aspect of gathering around a central fire diminished as families and individuals retreated into their own fireplaces. Maintaining customer trust was paramount for professional chimney sweeps. The task itself involved navigating precarious conditions, scaling roofs, and squeezing through narrow flues while ensuring thorough cleaning to prevent dangerous creosote buildup. Unexpected incidents were an ever-present risk, from collapses within the chimneys themselves to accidental damage to surrounding structures. A sweep's reputation hinged on both skill and reliability. A poorly cleaned chimney could lead to a devastating fire, while carelessness could result in costly repairs for the homeowner. The physical demands on a sweep were considerable. Prolonged periods spent, contorted within confined spaces, took a toll on their bodies, leading to chronic aches and respiratory ailments from soot inhalation. Beyond the immediate dangers of collapses and structural damage, sweeps also faced the risk of encountering unexpected obstacles within the chimneys, nests of birds or rodents, accumulated debris, and occasionally even lost items discarded by previous occupants. Clearing these obstructions added time and complexity to each job, further testing a sweep's skill and patience. Maintaining professional relationships with other tradesmen was often necessary. A sweep might require assistance from a roofer to repair damaged tiles, or a carpenter to reinforce weakened chimney structures. These collaborations underscored the interconnectedness of medieval crafts and the reliance on mutual support within the community. A reputation for honesty extended beyond simply cleaning chimneys thoroughly. It encompassed fair pricing, timely arrival, and respectful treatment of homeowners and their belongings, qualities that fostered trust and ensured continued patronage. The arrival of a chimney sweep was often met with a mixture of anticipation and perhaps slight apprehension within a household. While the service itself brought warmth and safety, the process could be disruptive. Accounts suggest that homeowners generally valued reliability above all else. A sweep who appeared when scheduled, prepared for the task, and completed it efficiently earned considerable trust. One homeowner might recall he came on the day he promised, which was a rare thing amongst tradesmen. Another noted, the soot settled quickly after his work. A sign of thoroughness. These observations speak to more than just punctuality. A skilled sweep understood the nuances of each chimney's construction and potential issues. It wasn't merely about removing accumulated debris, but also identifying underlying problems, cracks in the flue, or signs of water damage that could lead to larger, costlier repairs if left unaddressed. As one account relayed, he pointed out a small fissure I hadn't noticed, said it needed attention before winter. This proactive approach fostered a sense of security and demonstrated expertise beyond simple cleaning. The value placed on this knowledge extended to the understanding that a chimney's condition reflected upon the entire structure of the house itself. The value placed on a sweep's expertise also extended to their ability to advise homeowners on preventative measures beyond simple cleaning. One account detailed how a sweep recommended adjusting the damper based on prevailing wind patterns, minimizing drafts, and maximizing heat retention within the house. Another homeowner recalled receiving guidance on proper wood storage techniques, ensuring logs were seasoned and protected from rain, which directly impacted chimney performance and reduced creosote buildup. Such advice demonstrated an understanding of the broader interplay between the chimney, the fireplace, and the overall household environment. Furthermore, a sweep's reliability wasn't solely judged by punctuality or thoroughness. It was also tied to their discretion and respect for the homeowner's privacy. The process inherently involved access to private spaces within the house, and a trustworthy sweep maintained confidentiality and minimized disruption as much as possible. A household might appreciate that he asked permission before entering each room and took care not to disturb delicate furnishings. This consideration fostered a sense of comfort and reinforced the idea that the chimney sweep was an essential, yet carefully managed presence in the home. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered medieval domestic architecture, impacting those who maintained them. Prior to this shift, homes relied on central hearths for heating, requiring high ceilings to manage smoke, and often incorporating louvers that vented precious warmth. The transition to fireplaces in many homes during the 12th century led to a reduction in room size. Large halls gave way to smaller, more efficiently heated spaces. This change reshaped how dwellings were constructed and used. The need for chimneys spurred an increase in demand for chimney sweeps. While earlier heating methods had drawbacks, fireplaces offered advantages, reduced risk of fire from sparks, and a more even distribution of heat within smaller rooms. However, these benefits came with the necessity of regular cleaning to prevent creosote buildup and ensure proper ventilation. The construction of chimneys fostered a new relationship between homeowners and skilled laborers. The chimney sweeps, essential for maintaining both functionality and safety. Evidence from London Bridge estate deeds, as examined by Rickert, reveals that shops began incorporating fireplaces into their designs. These were not simply for warmth, but served to create a more inviting atmosphere for customers, often wealthy merchants who would gather around the fire while business was conducted. Similarly, depictions in medieval manuscripts portray towns with buildings featuring chimneys, some emitting smoke, indicating wider adoption of this technology beyond elite residences. Thomas of Walsingham's writings mention fireplaces being constructed in almshouses, demonstrating that even institutions catering to the less fortunate were incorporating them into their structures. Chimneys also began appearing in prison design. Records from 1377 detail fireplaces constructed within prisons, contributing to improved comfort levels for inmates, a notable shift reflecting changing societal expectations regarding even the most marginalized individuals. The adoption of chimneys fostered changes beyond mere heating considerations. Evidence suggests that shops increasingly incorporated fireplaces into their designs, not merely for warmth, but to create a more inviting atmosphere for customers. Similarly, depictions in medieval manuscripts portray towns with buildings featuring chimneys, emitting smoke, indicating wider adoption of this technology. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered building design and function across medieval England. Early structures relied on central hearths for heating, a system requiring high ceilings to manage sparks and venting smoke, a wasteful process that dissipated heat upwards. The shift towards fireplaces and chimneys in the 12th century marked a significant change. As noted by scholars studying this period, the number of people able to sit comfortably near a fire was reduced significantly, leading to smaller rooms becoming more common. While some heat loss still occurred through the chimney itself, it was considerably less than that associated with an open hearth. Crucially, chimneys also lessened the risk of fires caused by sparks. This technological advancement allowed for buildings to be constructed with lower ceilings and smaller footprints. The ability to exclude drafts further enhanced heating efficiency, concentrating warmth within a more contained space. This fostered a move away from large communal halls towards smaller, more intimate rooms, a shift impacting social interactions and domestic life. Evidence suggests that this change extended beyond the grand residences of nobility. Shops increasingly incorporated fireplaces not just for warmth, but also to create an inviting atmosphere for customers, reflecting evolving commercial practices and consumer expectations. The incorporation of chimneys into commercial spaces also spurred innovation in their construction and maintenance. Evidence from London records indicates that chimney sweeps were increasingly employed by shopkeepers to ensure proper ventilation and prevent smoke damage to goods. While earlier accounts primarily described chimney cleaning as a task performed opportunistically by household servants or casual laborers, the growing number of fireplaces within shops created a demand for more specialized services. This led to the emergence of individuals who focused solely on chimney maintenance, marking an early form of professionalization within this trade. Records from 1324 mention payments made to chimney sweepers, suggesting that these workers were recognized as distinct providers of a specific service. Furthermore, the need for regular inspections prompted experimentation with rudimentary tools beyond simple brushes and scrapers. Accounts describe the use of small mirrors and lanterns lowered into chimneys to assess their condition, a precursor to more sophisticated inspection techniques later developed. These early methods, while limited in scope, represented an effort to improve the accuracy and efficiency of chimney cleaning, reflecting a growing awareness of the importance of maintaining these increasingly vital components of medieval buildings. The emergence of chimney sweeping as a distinct service brought with it challenges that extended beyond simply cleaning flues, while payments to chimney sweepers indicated recognition of their role. Verifying the quality and effectiveness of this work proved difficult. Unlike other trades where finished products were readily inspected, the internal condition of a chimney remained largely unseen. This opacity created opportunities for substandard service and raised questions about how to ensure that sweeps performed their duties adequately. Testimonials from property owners, while occasionally available, presented inherent biases. A satisfied client might praise a sweeper's work, but lacked the technical expertise to truly assess its thoroughness or long-term impact on fire safety. Complaints were less likely to be recorded systematically, leaving a skewed picture of overall service quality. The absence of independent oversight meant that sweeps operated with considerable autonomy, and there was no established mechanism for holding them accountable for poor performance. This lack of external validation made it difficult to distinguish between competent practitioners and those simply going through the motions. The absence of standardized practices further complicated assessments. Some sweeps might diligently remove soot and creosote, while others appeared content with a cursory cleaning, leaving behind substantial deposits that posed a continued fire risk. The lack of formal training or licensing meant there was no guarantee of consistent skill levels among practitioners. Property owners were left to rely on their own judgment, often based on limited understanding of chimney construction and the potential dangers of accumulated debris. Even when complaints arose, remedies typically involved direct negotiation between the property owner and the sweeper, a process susceptible to bias and lacking impartial arbitration. The reliance on personal reputation proved insufficient in preventing instances of negligence or outright fraud within the trade. Assessments were frequently subjective and prone to bias, reflecting social hierarchies rather than objective measures of competence. For instance, a sweep serving a wealthy household might face greater scrutiny than those attending to more modest dwellings. Payments for chimney sweeping services rarely provided insight into the quality of work performed or methods employed. They simply confirmed that a service was rendered and a sum paid. Similarly, while manorial courts addressed fire damage, establishing causation, specifically linking it to inadequate sweeping, proved challenging. The lack of detailed records further obscured patterns of negligence within the trade. Resolutions often involved financial compensation rather than corrective action aimed at improving future service quality, reinforcing a culture where accountability remained largely transactional and failed to incentivize consistent professional standards among chimney sweeps. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces fundamentally altered medieval dwellings, but it also fostered a misconception about their operation. Early heating methods relied on central hearths within large rooms, requiring high ceilings to vent smoke. While this allowed for communal warmth, much heat escaped upwards or through louvers designed to manage the smoke. The shift towards fireplaces in many homes during the 12th century reduced room sizes and lowered ceilings, concentrating heat more effectively. However, even with chimneys, a persistent belief arose that these new hearths produced virtually no smoke. This was not entirely accurate. While chimneys significantly lessened the risk of sparks igniting surrounding materials compared to open hearths, they did not eliminate all emissions. The burning wood left behind a residue, what we might today call cement dust, which traveled up the chimney and settled within it. Regular maintenance became crucial to prevent this accumulation from obstructing airflow and creating a fire hazard. This dust wasn't merely an inconvenience. Its presence meant that even smoke-free gas fires, as they were perceived at the time, still generated particulate matter released into the surrounding environment. The need for frequent chimney sweeping was therefore not simply about preventing catastrophic fires, but also managing this ongoing production of cement dust and ensuring efficient heating. The accumulation of this cement dust also presented challenges for those responsible for maintaining hearths and chimneys, further reinforcing their importance within the household economy. While some households might employ a dedicated servant to manage these tasks, others relied on itinerant sweeps who traveled from village to village offering their services. The quality of workmanship varied considerably. Some sweeps were diligent and thorough, while others prioritized speed over effectiveness, potentially leaving behind significant deposits that could compromise safety. Accounts detailing the cost of chimney sweeping reveal its significance as a recurring household expense, demonstrating that even with the perceived advantages of smoke-free fires, upkeep remained essential. Furthermore, the very construction of chimneys themselves contributed to this ongoing cycle of dust production. The materials used, often brick or stone mortared together, were susceptible to weathering and erosion, releasing fine particles into the airflow within the chimney shaft. This meant that even a newly built fireplace would gradually generate cement dust over time, necessitating periodic cleaning to maintain its efficiency and prevent hazardous buildup. The adoption of enclosed fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered medieval domestic life, extending beyond comfort to influence room size and construction. Prior to this shift, large rooms with open hearths necessitated high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting overhead structures. Heat dissipated upwards, a significant loss of fuel, particularly when vents were incorporated for smoke removal. The fireplace's arrival in many homes during the 12th century dramatically reduced the number of people able to gather comfortably around a fire, shrinking communal spaces and fostering smaller rooms. While chimneys lessened the risk of fire compared to open hearths, their presence also introduced new considerations regarding indoor air quality. Though offering improved heat distribution within a room, achieved through excluding drafts, chimneys were not without consequence. The materials used in chimney construction, brick or stone mortared together, gradually released fine particles into the airflow as they weathered. This ongoing production of dust, combined with smoke from burning fuel, meant that indoor air quality was inextricably linked to chimney maintenance. A thorough sweeping became essential, not just for efficient heating, but also for mitigating potential health risks associated with accumulated soot and carbon monoxide. Chimneys were often constructed from readily available resources, local clay baked into brick or roughly hewn stone mortared together, rather than precisely engineered components. As these materials weathered under constant exposure to heat and the elements, they gradually eroded, releasing fine particles that circulated within the domestic environment. This particulate matter, combined with smoke originating from wood, coal, or peat fires, further degrading indoor air quality. The frequency and thoroughness of chimney sweeping directly impacted the amount of dust and soot released into living spaces, influencing the overall well-being of household members. Evidence from estate accounts occasionally mentions payments made to chimney sweeps alongside those for other domestic services, suggesting an awareness of this ongoing maintenance requirement and its impact on a home's habitability. The construction of these chimneys also influenced domestic layouts and social interactions within households. As fireplaces became more prevalent, they gradually displaced the central hearth as a focal point for communal activities. The shift towards smaller, heated rooms fostered a greater emphasis on privacy and individual space, altering established patterns of family life. Furthermore, the presence of chimneys contributed to changes in urban planning and building design, as structures adapted to accommodate these new features and their associated ventilation requirements. The integration of chimneys into buildings necessitated adjustments to rooflines and facades, shaping the architectural landscape of medieval towns and cities. The presence of chimneys fundamentally altered medieval life, and their adoption marked a significant shift from earlier heating practices. Before the widespread use of fireplaces and chimneys in the 12th century, homes relied on central hearths for warmth. These large fires required high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting the building structure. However, this design also resulted in considerable heat loss as warm air rose unchecked into the upper reaches of the room. Furthermore, vents installed at the roof's peak to dispel smoke exacerbated this issue by allowing even more heat to escape. The shift towards fireplaces and chimneys reduced the number of people able to sit comfortably near a fire, diminishing the functional capacity of large rooms. The adoption of chimney technology fostered the development of smaller, more efficiently heated spaces. While some heat was inevitably lost through the chimney itself, it represented a considerable improvement over the open hearth's inefficiency. Chimneys also significantly reduced the risk of fires caused by sparks. This allowed for lower ceilings and smaller room sizes, distributing warmth more evenly throughout the space. When combined with measures to prevent drafts, These smaller rooms proved warmer and more comfortable than the large halls heated by central hearths. The chimney's influence extended beyond mere heating. It contributed to a gradual shift in social dynamics within homes as families increasingly prioritized individual comfort and privacy over communal gatherings around a single fire. The adoption of chimneys also influenced building design and social organization beyond the individual household. Records from the late 13th and 14th centuries indicate that chimney construction became a standard feature in new buildings, particularly those intended for wealthier residents. One document references sales of oves and chimneys, suggesting their incorporation into commercial properties as well. Chimneys were not merely functional additions. They also served as status symbols, with elaborate designs and decorative features becoming increasingly common among the elite. The presence of a chimney in a building could signify prosperity and social standing, further reinforcing distinctions within medieval society. Accounts from monastic establishments reveal that chimneys were installed in chambers intended for guests and officials, demonstrating their growing acceptance across various societal strata. Similarly, prisons began to incorporate fireplaces, albeit often rudimentary ones, providing some measure of comfort even for those incarcerated. The increasing prevalence of chimneys also spurred the development of specialized trades and crafts, including chimney construction and maintenance, contributing to a more diversified economy. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered building design across medieval England. Prior to this shift, large rooms were heated by central hearths, requiring high ceilings to prevent sparks from igniting timber structures. This method was inefficient. Heat rose unchecked, dissipating through vents designed to manage smoke. As fireplaces became more common in the 12th century, a significant change occurred. The number of people able to benefit from the warmth diminished considerably. Diluting the functional capability of large rooms, the chimney fostered the development of smaller spaces, a direct consequence of this technology. Though heat loss still occurred through chimneys, it was less than that lost through an open hearth. Moreover, they dramatically reduced the risk of fire. This allowed builders to construct lower ceilings and smaller rooms, creating more evenly heated areas. When precautions were taken to exclude drafts, a smaller room with a fireplace warmed fewer people, but with better heat distribution than a large hall relying on a central hearth where most of the heat escaped upwards. The architectural shift reflected evolving social preferences for privacy and individual space within the home. Chimney stacks often formed integral parts of shop fronts in urban areas, as suggested by evidence from London Bridge estate deeds. These shops frequently dealt in luxury goods like silks, designed to allow merchants to display wares to customers seated near a fireplace, creating an environment conducive to trade. Chimneys also influenced sanitation practices. Some medieval buildings incorporated them into latrine design, utilizing the flue system to vent waste, a pragmatic solution combining heating with hygiene. Royal accounts reveal chimneys being constructed in prisons, suggesting adoption across institutions. Fireplaces became increasingly common in monastic halls and almshouses as well, demonstrating their appeal across various social strata. A manuscript illustration from the mid-15th century depicts town scenes where chimneys appear on upper floors alongside merchant dwellings, indicating that chimney construction was an accepted element of urban architecture by this point. Chimney stacks were sometimes incorporated as decorative elements within shop fronts, contributing to the overall visual appeal of the urban landscape. Accounts from monastic communities demonstrate increasing awareness of chimneys' potential for both heating and ventilation. The Priory of St. Mary of Graces in Berwick-upon-Tweed possessed a chimney constructed within its almonry. Royal records illustrate expanding use, with fireplaces installed not only in royal chambers but also in areas designated for servants and guards. This broader distribution indicates that chimney technology was becoming increasingly accessible across various social strata. The adoption of the fireplace and chimney fundamentally altered domestic life in medieval England. But this technological shift also created a new demand: skilled individuals capable of constructing, maintaining, and repairing these increasingly complex systems. Early chimneys were often simple flues built directly into walls, but as architectural styles evolved, so too did the demands placed on those who worked with them. The construction of elaborate chimney pieces, integrated within larger structures, required more than just a basic understanding of masonry. It necessitated an awareness of structural integrity and ventilation principles. The increasing complexity of chimneys coincided with the rise of gas fire systems in some households. While wood remained the primary fuel source for most, wealthier families began experimenting with coal-fired hearths, which produced significantly different combustion byproducts and required specialized chimney designs to prevent dangerous accumulations of soot and carbon monoxide. Grand manor houses and urban dwellings often featured intricate architectural details that integrated chimneys into decorative schemes, requiring sweeps not only to clean flues but also to preserve ornate mantelpieces and surrounding stonework. This meant a shift from simple manual labor to a craft demanding precision and an understanding of aesthetics. The role of the chimney sweep was evolving beyond mere cleaning. It became one of specialized maintenance and repair, reflecting the growing sophistication of medieval architecture and heating technology. The increasing complexity of chimney design also necessitated a more nuanced understanding of materials and construction techniques. While earlier sweeps might have relied on simple tools like pokers and scrapers, those working with elaborate fireplaces often required specialized chisels for delicate stonework or brushes designed to navigate intricate flues without damaging decorative elements. Furthermore, the integration of chimneys into grand manor houses frequently involved collaboration with master masons and carpenters, demanding a level of communication and technical expertise beyond that of a mere laborer. The ability to diagnose structural weaknesses in chimney stacks, identify potential fire hazards arising from flawed construction, and propose effective remedies became valuable skills, elevating the status of some sweeps within the medieval social hierarchy. Evidence suggests that certain sweeps were employed not only for routine cleaning, but also as consultants on new building projects or renovations, advising architects and builders on optimal chimney placement and design to ensure efficient ventilation and structural stability. The craft was beginning to incorporate elements of engineering and architectural understanding, signifying a shift from simple maintenance to preventative care and specialized consultation. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered medieval building practices and had significant economic repercussions. Prior to this shift, central hearths dominated heating methods, requiring large rooms with high ceilings to mitigate fire risk and manage smoke dispersal. This design necessitated considerable fuel consumption and inefficient heat distribution. The introduction of the chimney in many homes during the 12th century led to a reduction in room size, allowing for lower ceilings and more efficient heating. This architectural change spurred demand for specialized labor. While masons continued to construct chimneys as integral parts of buildings, the task of cleaning them became a distinct economic activity. Soot accumulation within chimneys posed a fire hazard and reduced their efficiency. Regular sweeping was therefore essential for maintaining safe and effective home heating. This created a new niche in the medieval economy: chimney sweeping services. The demand wasn't limited to wealthier households with elaborate fireplaces. Even modest dwellings required occasional cleaning, generating consistent work for those willing to undertake it. The economic impact extended beyond simply providing income for sweeps. The need for tools, brushes, scrapers, and other implements fostered a small but specialized market for their manufacture and sale. Furthermore, the increased prevalence of chimneys contributed to shifts in urban planning and housing design, influencing property values and construction patterns within medieval towns and cities. The specialized market for chimney sweeping tools extended to include ancillary items such as brushes made of various materials, hog bristles, wire, and even leather strips, each suited to different soot types and chimney constructions. The demand also spurred innovation in scraper design, with sweeps developing increasingly efficient methods for dislodging hardened deposits. While some sweeps crafted their own implements, others relied on blacksmiths and carpenters who adapted existing skills to meet this specific need. Beyond the tools themselves, the industry fostered a small trade in protective clothing. Sweeps often wore masks or cloths to mitigate exposure to soot and dust, creating another minor economic niche. The rise of chimney sweeping also subtly influenced social perceptions within medieval society. While initially viewed as a relatively unskilled occupation, the increasing complexity of chimneys, particularly those found in larger urban dwellings, led to a gradual recognition of specialized knowledge and skill among experienced sweeps. This nascent professionalization began to differentiate them from other laborers and contributed to the formation of informal networks and apprenticeship systems within some towns. The immediate future of chimney sweeping remained uncertain. While the craft had gained a degree of recognition within medieval society, its trajectory was far from predetermined. The increasing prevalence of fireplaces and chimneys across various social strata, from royal residences to modest dwellings, had undeniably created a demand for sweep services. Yet this burgeoning industry faced potential shifts driven by evolving architectural practices and societal priorities. The very design of new structures presented both opportunities and challenges, as evidenced in discussions surrounding the construction of manor houses and even castles. Chimneys were increasingly integrated into building plans from the outset. This suggests a move away from retrofitting existing hearths and towards a more deliberate incorporation of chimney technology. Such foresight could potentially reduce the need for extensive remedial work that characterized much of the sweep's current labor. However, it also implied greater scrutiny over construction quality. Poorly built chimneys would require even more frequent maintenance and repair, demanding skilled sweeps with a deeper understanding of structural integrity. Furthermore, the growing emphasis on enclosed spaces, a trend noted in accounts of royal households and monastic communities alike, could impact the demand for sweeping services. As rooms became smaller and more private, the need to ventilate smoke through chimneys might diminish, potentially leading to alternative heating solutions or modified chimney designs that reduced soot accumulation. The desire for privacy, as observed in descriptions of upper-class dwellings, fueled a shift towards smaller, enclosed spaces, which could subtly alter the landscape of chimney maintenance. The integration of chimneys into building design also spurred a gradual shift in domestic layouts and social interactions. As evidenced by descriptions of merchant dwellings in London and depictions within illuminated manuscripts, hearths were increasingly becoming focal points for both cooking and socializing. The presence of a chimney often dictated the placement of rooms, with kitchens and parlors frequently clustered around this central feature. This concentration of activity fostered new forms of communal living, particularly among urban families who relied on shared fireplaces for warmth and sustenance. Furthermore, accounts from monastic communities reveal an evolving understanding of ventilation and air quality. While earlier designs prioritized smoke extraction through high ceilings, later innovations incorporated dampers and improved chimney flues to minimize drafts and maximize heating efficiency, a development noted in architectural surveys of several abbeys. The desire for greater control over indoor environments also led to experimentation with chimney construction materials, as evidenced by records detailing the use of brick and tile linings intended to reduce soot accumulation and improve draft performance. These advancements, while initially confined to wealthier households, gradually disseminated through society, influencing building practices across various social strata. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered building design across medieval England. Early structures relied on central hearths, requiring high ceilings to manage sparks and venting smoke through louvers, a system that wasted heat. The shift towards individual fireplaces in many homes during the 12th century led to smaller rooms with lower ceilings, a significant change noted by historians examining domestic architecture. While some heat loss persisted through chimneys, it was considerably less than what escaped from open hearths. Moreover, chimneys reduced the risk of fire and allowed for more even heating within enclosed spaces. This shift wasn't merely about comfort. It had profound implications for how homes were used. The fireplace fostered a move towards smaller, more private rooms, diluting the functional capacity of large communal halls. This widespread adoption highlights the importance placed on controlling indoor environments and mitigating hazards associated with traditional hearths. Chimney design also influenced building maintenance practices. The accumulation of creosote, a flammable byproduct of wood combustion, posed a significant fire hazard if left unaddressed. Records from monastic estates occasionally mention individuals tasked with cleaning chimneys, often combined with general maintenance duties. Accounts from Abingdon Abbey in 1377 document payments for sales of chimneys, suggesting both the purchase of materials and routine cleaning. The frequency varied depending on usage. Households burning substantial quantities of wood would require more frequent sweeps than those relying primarily on other fuel sources. It is likely that chimneys received at least a cursory inspection annually, often during periods of reduced heating demand in spring or early summer. The presence of chimneys also necessitated attention to their external structures, as weather exposure could lead to cracking and deterioration. The materials used varied regionally, reflecting local resources and building traditions. In areas abundant with clay, bricks became common, offering greater durability compared to wattle and daub or stone linings. Accounts from the Duchy of Cornwall in the early 15th century reveal payments for timber and bracken for the chimney, indicating structural elements and protective facing materials. The labor involved extended beyond simple sweeping, repairs to mortar joints, replacement of damaged tiles or bricks, and occasional rebuilding of entire flues were necessary tasks demanding a range of skills. While specialized masons might be employed for significant renovations, routine maintenance often fell to general laborers or household servants with some familiarity with building techniques. The cost of these services was factored into estate budgets, although precise records are frequently lacking. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces fundamentally altered medieval homes, changing how occupants related to heat and safety. Early buildings relied on central hearths, requiring high ceilings to manage smoke and prevent sparks from igniting thatched roofs. This design dissipated considerable heat upwards, rendering large rooms inefficiently warm. The shift towards enclosed fireplaces in many 12th century dwellings reduced the number of people benefiting from the fire's warmth, while simultaneously diminishing room size. While some heat loss persisted through chimneys, it was notably less than that associated with open hearths. Crucially, chimneys lessened the risk of fires caused by sparks, allowing for smaller rooms and lower ceilings. This technological advancement fostered a new awareness regarding home maintenance and potential hazards. The chimney itself demanded attention. Specialized masons handled significant repairs to brick or stone flues, while routine upkeep often fell to household staff with building knowledge. This included tasks such as repairing mortar joints and replacing damaged tiles, responsibilities that directly impacted the safety of the dwelling. Homeowners began to understand that a poorly maintained chimney posed a real threat. Sparks could easily ignite combustible materials within the house or spread to neighboring structures. The need for preventative measures created an opportunity for those who swept chimneys to advise on best practices and identify potential issues. Chimney sweeps, possessing practical knowledge of flue construction and hazards, began offering rudimentary advice to homeowners regarding maintenance. This might include observations about excessive soot buildup, signs of cracks in the masonry, or concerns about obstructions within the chimney stack. While formal instruction was absent, a dialogue emerged between those who swept chimneys and those who owned them, centered on preventative measures and early detection of problems. Homeowners often sought this advice, recognizing the sweep's expertise as valuable for safeguarding their homes. This interaction extended beyond mere service provision. It represented a shift towards proactive home management and an appreciation for specialized skills in maintaining domestic infrastructure. The sweep's familiarity with flue design allowed them to identify issues such as inadequate draft, which could lead to smoke backdrafting into the house, or signs of deterioration in the brickwork or mortar joints. Such assessments were often communicated through simple explanations relating observed conditions to their impact on household comfort and safety. For instance, a sweep might note that excessive creosote buildup indicated inefficient combustion and increased fire risk, or point out crumbling mortar as evidence of water damage requiring repair. These interactions fostered a rudimentary form of preventative maintenance, where the chimney sweep's expertise was leveraged not just for remediation, but also for proactive care, contributing to safer and more efficient home heating practices. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys fundamentally altered building design across medieval England. Early structures relied on central hearths, which necessitated high ceilings to manage sparks and vent smoke. This approach proved inefficient. Heat dissipated upwards, wasting fuel, and required louvers that further exacerbated the problem. The shift towards fireplaces with chimneys in many homes during the 12th century brought about a significant change, a reduction in room size. While some heat loss still occurred through the chimney, it was considerably less than what was lost from an open hearth. Moreover, chimneys lessened the risk of fire and allowed for lower ceilings and smaller rooms, enabling more even heating. The design implications extended beyond mere functionality. They influenced social patterns as well. The concentrated warmth fostered a shift away from large communal halls towards smaller, more intimate spaces. This architectural evolution reflects a growing desire for privacy among occupants. Chimneys weren't solely confined to grand residences either. Evidence suggests their presence in almshouses and even prisons, indicating a gradual diffusion of this technology across social strata. In some instances, chimneys were integrated into latrines, combining warmth with sanitation, a practical adaptation reflecting the ingenuity of medieval builders. The integration of chimneys into buildings presented unique maintenance challenges for chimney sweeps and building owners alike. The materials used, often a combination of brick, stone, and mortar, were susceptible to weathering and degradation over time. Chimneys exposed to prevailing winds and rain experienced accelerated erosion, requiring frequent repairs. Furthermore, the internal flue linings were vulnerable to cracking from thermal stress caused by fluctuating temperatures during firing. This damage could lead to smoke leakage into living spaces or, more dangerously, create a pathway for sparks to ignite combustible materials within wall cavities. The complexity of chimney construction also varied considerably. Some chimneys featured simple, straight flues, while others incorporated intricate bends and junctions designed to optimize draft or direct smoke away from prevailing winds. These complex designs increased the difficulty of identifying and rectifying defects. Evidence suggests that specialized masons were sometimes employed for significant repairs, particularly in grand residences where elaborate chimney stacks formed an integral part of the building's aesthetic. Records indicate payments made to craftsmen for rebuilding of chimneys or repairing of flue work, highlighting the ongoing need for skilled intervention. The presence of chimneys within latrines, as previously noted, introduced additional complications due to the corrosive effects of waste and moisture on chimney materials. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces fundamentally altered building design across medieval England. Prior to this shift, large rooms with central hearths were common, requiring high ceilings to manage smoke and posing a significant heat loss challenge due to drafts. The introduction of chimneys in the 12th century led to smaller, more efficiently heated spaces. This change wasn't merely about comfort. It fostered a new architectural style characterized by lower ceilings and reduced room sizes, a direct consequence of improved heating technology. The environmental impact of this shift was subtle but persistent. Chimneys necessitated a constant supply of fuel, primarily wood, placing increased demand on local forests and contributing to deforestation in some areas. The construction itself also had an environmental footprint, requiring quarried stone or brick, further impacting landscapes. While the chimney lessened the risk of sparks causing fires compared to open hearths, it introduced new maintenance concerns tied to weather patterns. Evidence suggests that prolonged periods of heavy rain could saturate chimney materials, leading to cracks and increased vulnerability to frost damage during colder months. Similarly, strong winds posed a threat, potentially forcing smoke back into dwellings or damaging the chimney stack itself. The need for regular inspection and repair became an ongoing reality for homeowners and sweeps alike, a consequence of integrating these structures within the natural environment. The chimney's integration into dwellings also influenced perceptions of comfort and status. Evidence from estate accounts suggests that wealthier households increasingly incorporated decorative elements around their chimneys, such as carved mantelpieces or elaborate tilework, signifying both prosperity and a degree of architectural sophistication. Conversely, less affluent homes often featured simpler, functional chimneys constructed from readily available materials like clay or roughly hewn stone. The presence or absence of a chimney became a subtle marker of social standing within the community. Furthermore, variations in chimney design reflected regional building traditions and access to resources. In areas with abundant timber, chimneys might be partially encased in brick or stone to protect them from fire hazards associated with wooden structures. Regions lacking suitable stone often relied on clay for construction, resulting in chimneys that were more susceptible to weathering and required frequent repair. The need to adapt chimney design to local conditions underscores the ongoing interaction between human innovation and environmental constraints. While chimneys improved heating efficiency, they also introduced new vulnerabilities tied to climate patterns, requiring constant vigilance from both homeowners and those responsible for their upkeep. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces fundamentally altered domestic life, but their impact extended beyond individual homes to shape community structures and local service networks. Prior to this shift, large central hearths dominated medieval dwellings, requiring expansive rooms that served as communal spaces. As fireplaces became more prevalent in the 12th century, however, a notable consequence was the reduction of room size. Nearly 3/4 fewer people could comfortably gather around a fireplace compared to a central hearth. This fostered a preference for smaller, more intimate rooms, and with them, a shift in how communities functioned. The need to maintain these new chimneys created opportunities for specialized labor within villages and towns. While homeowners were responsible for basic upkeep, the complexity of chimney construction and occasional repairs often necessitated the involvement of skilled tradesmen. These individuals formed the nucleus of what would become a distinct profession, the chimney sweep. The work involved more than simply clearing soot. It encompassed inspecting chimneys for structural integrity, identifying potential fire hazards, and advising homeowners on preventative measures. This level of expertise fostered trust between sweeps and their clients, establishing relationships that extended beyond simple transactions. A chimney's proper function became intertwined with a household's safety and comfort, making the sweep an essential figure in the local economy. The relationships fostered by chimney sweeping extended beyond mere repairs. Sweeps often provided advice on fuel efficiency and fire safety, contributing to a household's overall well-being. Evidence from London records indicates that some sweeps were involved in disputes regarding smoke nuisance, highlighting their role as mediators within the community. These disagreements arose when chimneys failed to draw properly, causing smoke to drift into neighboring homes, leading to friction between households. The sweep's expertise was then sought to diagnose and rectify the problem, further solidifying their position as trusted advisors. Furthermore, the specialized nature of chimney sweeping created a unique niche in local markets. While larger towns might have multiple sweeps catering to different districts or social classes, smaller villages often relied on itinerant workers who traveled from place to place, offering their services seasonally. These traveling sweeps brought with them knowledge and techniques gleaned from other communities, contributing to the diffusion of best practices in chimney construction and maintenance. The demand for these skills also spurred informal apprenticeships, as younger individuals sought to learn the trade from experienced sweeps, ensuring the continuation of this vital community service. The arrival of chimneys fundamentally altered domestic life, reshaping expectations surrounding hearth maintenance. Early medieval structures relied on central hearths and wasteful louvers for venting smoke. The adoption of fireplaces and chimneys during the 12th century marked a shift. Rooms could now be smaller, heating more efficiently and reducing fire risk. This fostered a preference for enclosed spaces, diluting the functional capacity of large halls and prompting a desire for greater control over indoor environments. This advancement signaled a desire for privacy and comfort, previously unattainable. Chimneys facilitated smaller rooms, enabling more intimate gatherings and shifting interactions from communal circles to focused ones. As homes became reliant on chimneys, customers expected not just functionality, but also efficiency and safety. Concerns arose regarding smoke management, heat distribution, and fire hazards, increasing reliance on sweeps who could diagnose and rectify problems beyond simple cleaning. The complexity of chimney design spurred further shifts in expectations. Early chimneys were often simple flues, but evolving construction techniques introduced decorative elements and improved draft systems. This demanded expertise from sweeps to assess structural integrity, identify creosote buildup, and recommend preventative measures. The rise of urban centers amplified these expectations. Increased competition emphasized reputation and reliability. Word-of-mouth referrals became crucial, favoring competent and trustworthy sweeps while penalizing negligent ones. Detailed reports outlining chimney condition and work performed also emerged, reflecting a desire for transparency. Accounts from the late 13th century indicate that wealthier patrons sometimes requested specific materials, such as tiles or plaster, for mantel sheaths around chimneys, suggesting an increased aesthetic awareness. The adoption of chimneys fundamentally altered building practices and social life, but their proliferation also spurred concerns about safety and quality. Initially, chimney construction lacked regulation. Sweeps often possessed limited formal training, leading to inconsistent workmanship and potential hazards. As chimneys became more prevalent in urban centers and among the wealthier classes, demands for greater accountability arose. Evidence suggests that by the late 13th century, a rudimentary form of oversight began to emerge. While formalized guilds or regulatory bodies were not yet widespread, the increasing complexity of chimney design, moving beyond simple flues to incorporate decorative elements and improved draft systems, necessitated a higher level of skill. This prompted patrons to seek out sweeps with demonstrable expertise, fostering a system where reputation became paramount. Accounts from this period indicate that wealthier households sometimes specified particular materials for mantel sheaths around chimneys, reflecting an expectation of quality beyond mere functionality. The need to ensure structural integrity and prevent dangerous creosote buildup gradually pushed towards more standardized practices within the trade. Scattered records from manorial courts and urban accounts reveal occasional disputes concerning workmanship or negligence, suggesting an evolving understanding of responsibility. For instance, estate surveys sometimes held sweeps liable for damage caused by inadequate cleaning or faulty repairs. The Liberate Rolls, records of royal expenditures, occasionally mention payments made to chimney sweepers for work performed at the king's residences, sometimes specifying materials used or tasks completed, a rudimentary form of quality control driven by patronage. The increasing complexity of urban environments further spurred a need for some degree of oversight. As towns grew and buildings became more densely packed, the risk of fire spread intensified, prompting local authorities to take notice of chimney maintenance practices. While direct prohibitions on who could practice as a sweep were rare, occasional ordinances addressed general building safety concerns that indirectly impacted chimney sweeping standards. For example, regulations in York mandated regular inspections of buildings and imposed fines for obstructions blocking passageways, measures intended to facilitate firefighting, but which also implicitly encouraged proper chimney maintenance. These interventions represented nascent efforts to regulate aspects of chimney maintenance beyond individual property owners' responsibility. The Liberate Rolls document instances where royal residences were inspected for fire hazards, with attention paid to the condition of chimneys and flues, a reflection of heightened awareness regarding fire risk within urban centers. The adoption of the fireplace and chimney fundamentally altered domestic life in medieval England. Prior to this innovation, central hearths required large rooms with high ceilings for ventilation, dissipating heat upwards. The introduction of chimneys in many homes during the 12th century reduced room sizes considerably. Occupants were no longer gathered around a communal fire, but instead enjoyed smaller, more private spaces heated by individual fireplaces. This shift fostered the development of smaller rooms and lowered ceiling heights, leading to more efficient heating with less fuel waste. The chimney's impact extended beyond mere thermal comfort. The lessened risk of sparks from chimneys contributed to safer living conditions and allowed for construction of buildings with lower ceilings. While not direct prohibitions on who could practice as a sweep, regulations addressing building safety implicitly encouraged proper maintenance of these new structures. Royal residences were also inspected for fire hazards, demonstrating heightened awareness regarding chimney condition within urban centers. The technology itself spurred changes in social practices. The increased demand for privacy among the upper classes led to fireplaces becoming commonplace, even in lesser rooms such as solar and almonries. Chimneys appeared in monastic settings, indicating a wider adoption across societal strata. Evidence suggests that shops incorporated chimneys into their designs, creating heated spaces for merchants and artisans. These structures often featured displays visible from the street, combining functionality with commercial appeal. The incorporation of chimneys into shops demonstrates a broadening adoption across societal strata. Evidence suggests that merchants and artisans utilized heated spaces for both commercial display and personal comfort, reflecting an increasing emphasis on convenience and perceived status. While earlier structures often featured communal hearths or braziers, the individual chimney offered a degree of control over temperature and air quality previously unavailable. The presence of chimneys in shops also facilitated extended hours of operation during colder months, potentially boosting trade and contributing to the vibrancy of urban commercial districts. Records from London Bridge estate deeds indicate that some shop fronts were equipped with fireplaces, suggesting a deliberate effort to create inviting spaces for customers. Visual depictions within illuminated manuscripts further corroborate this trend, portraying scenes of shops with chimneys integrated into their designs, often accompanied by displays visible from the street. These structures combined functionality with commercial appeal, demonstrating an awareness of how architectural features could influence consumer behavior and enhance business reputation. The adoption of chimneys and fireplaces marked a significant shift in medieval domestic life. As noted in the chimney and social change in medieval England, early buildings relied on central hearths, requiring high ceilings to manage smoke and heat dissipation. These large rooms were inefficient, with much of the generated heat rising unchecked. The introduction of fireplaces and chimneys beginning in the 12th century fostered smaller, more efficiently heated rooms. This transition altered how dwellings were constructed and utilized. The shift to individual fireplaces created a new relationship between homeowners and those who maintained them: chimney sweeps. Trust was undoubtedly paramount. A sweep's skill directly impacted the safety and functionality of a home, and any lapse in diligence could have dire consequences. The accumulation of soot and creosote within chimneys posed a constant fire risk. Therefore, homeowners needed to rely on sweeps for thoroughness and honesty, knowing that shortcuts or substandard work could compromise their property and well-being. This reliance extended beyond mere competence. It encompassed confidence that the sweep would prioritize safety above expediency. A poorly swept chimney could easily lead to a devastating fire. This understanding fostered a relationship built on mutual respect and accountability. While formal contracts were uncommon, verbal agreements and reputations served as powerful incentives for honest work. A sweep who consistently delivered thorough service earned loyalty, while negligence or dishonesty could swiftly lead to social ostracism and loss of livelihood. The very nature of the trade necessitated this reliance. Homeowners lacked expertise to adequately assess a sweep's performance. The importance of these relationships was further underscored by practical considerations. A sweep's access to a home required an unusual degree of trust, as he traversed private spaces and handled valuable possessions. Homeowners often provided sweeps with food and lodging in exchange for their services, solidifying this reciprocal dependence. While not universal, such hospitality highlighted the expectation that a sweep would conduct himself with integrity within the homeowner's dwelling. This fostered a sense of obligation on both sides. The sweep was bound to perform his duties diligently, while the homeowner was expected to offer fair compensation and reasonable treatment. This mutual understanding helped ensure the longevity of working relationships. The adoption of the fireplace and chimney fundamentally altered domestic life in medieval England, impacting everything from room size to social interaction. Early structures relied on central hearths, which necessitated large rooms with high ceilings to manage smoke and heat dissipation. The shift towards fireplaces, beginning in the 12th century, led to smaller, more efficiently heated spaces. This wasn't merely a matter of comfort, it fundamentally reshaped architectural design and influenced societal norms. The chimney's influence extended beyond mere heating. As rooms became smaller and ceilings lower, the communal aspect of gathering around a central hearth diminished. The fireplace fostered a preference for smaller, more private chambers, reflecting a growing desire for individual space among households. While heat loss through the chimney remained an issue, it was significantly less than that associated with open hearths, allowing for more controlled heating and improved overall efficiency. Chimneys were increasingly incorporated into latrines, providing warmth while facilitating waste removal. This innovation demonstrates a broader trend of integrating heating technology into various aspects of daily life. Royal residences also reflected this evolution. In 1256, Henry III ordered reconstruction of a fireplace at Guildford, and later, in 1377, chimneys were constructed beneath the jail's chamber and above, within a designated section of the house. The presence of fireplaces became increasingly common across social strata, as evidenced by their inclusion in almshouses, with some institutions featuring a chimney in each room. Records indicate that wood was allocated weekly for prisoners at Bury, suggesting an effort to provide warmth even within confined spaces. Chimneys were also integrated into commercial architecture, appearing in shop fronts where merchants displayed goods before customers seated near the fire. A French miniature depicting a town scene from the mid-15th century illustrates shops with chimneys indicating residential quarters above, suggesting a blending of living and working spaces within urban environments. Records document structures incorporating both shops and residential quarters, further illustrating this phenomenon. These innovations improved comfort and functionality, but also presented new challenges related to fuel consumption and air quality, prompting ongoing adjustments in building design and usage patterns. The adoption of the fireplace fundamentally altered domestic life. Early medieval buildings heated by a central hearth required high ceilings to prevent sparks from causing fires. With fireplaces, the number of persons sitting next to the fire was reduced, diluting the functional capability of large rooms. Rooms could be built smaller with much lower ceilings, heating the area more evenly. The adoption of the fireplace and chimney fundamentally reshaped medieval domestic life, leading to significant societal changes. Earlier buildings relied on central hearths that required high ceilings and large rooms, often shared by many. The enclosed fireplace offered a new intimacy and efficiency. Evidence suggests this reduced the number of people able to sit comfortably near the fire by nearly 3/4, shrinking living areas. This shift fostered smaller rooms with lower ceilings and better heat distribution. Precautions against drafts improved warmth while conserving fuel. These enclosed spaces subtly altered social patterns as chimneys became architectural features, signifying domestic refinement and contributing to a growing desire for privacy. The fireplace facilitated separation of living and working areas, allowing for more specialized functions within buildings, a trend seen even in modest dwellings. The increasing prevalence of chimneys spurred innovation beyond construction techniques. Builders and homeowners grew aware of chimney design for both efficiency and aesthetics. Early chimneys were functional structures, but later examples demonstrated elaborate detailing like decorative shafts and mantles, reflecting household status. Experimentation with flues and dampers aimed to optimize airflow and minimize drafts, extending refinement even to modest chimneys. The need for ongoing maintenance reinforced the chimney sweep's role in household upkeep. As buildings became more complex, with multiple fireplaces serving different rooms, demand grew for specialized knowledge regarding construction and repair. This fostered professionalization within the trade, moving beyond apprenticeships to encompass building materials and ventilation principles. This complexity also led to a shift in how chimney sweeps were perceived. Some began establishing workshops, offering cleaning services, repairs, and consultations on chimney construction. Certain sweeps developed reputations for expertise, attracting wealthier clients, seeking advice on optimizing fireplaces or addressing smoke problems. This specialization hinted at a divergence within the trade, a distinction between routine cleaners and those providing technical services. Informal networks among chimney sweeps facilitated knowledge exchange about new techniques and materials, contributing to long-term stability and professionalization. The increasing prevalence of chimneys fundamentally reshaped domestic life and spurred a corresponding evolution within the chimney sweep trade itself. Initially, sweeps were largely itinerant laborers, often children performing rudimentary cleaning tasks. However, as fireplaces became more commonplace and increasingly sophisticated, incorporating decorative elements or serving multiple rooms, the demands on these workers grew considerably. The shift from open hearths to enclosed chimneys necessitated a greater understanding of construction principles and ventilation dynamics. This burgeoning expertise led some sweeps to move beyond mere cleaning, offering repair services and even consultations regarding fireplace design and efficiency. Certain individuals cultivated reputations for specialized knowledge, attracting wealthier clients who sought solutions to smoke problems or desired optimized heating performance. The development of workshops where sweeping services were provided alongside repairs signaled a transition from informal labor to a more structured trade. This professionalization was further bolstered by the exchange of techniques and materials among sweeps through informal networks, a tacit form of apprenticeship that ensured continuity and innovation within the craft, while the core function remained removing soot and debris. The role of the chimney sweep began to encompass elements of building maintenance and technical advice, foreshadowing a divergence in specialization within the trade. This gradual professionalization of chimney sweeping services also brought about a shift in how these tradespeople were perceived within society. Initially, the association with child labor and precarious working conditions fostered a degree of social stigma. However, as sweeps began to offer more specialized repairs and consultations, and increasingly operated from established workshops, their reputations evolved. The ability to diagnose complex venting issues or recommend improvements to fireplace design conferred upon them a certain level of technical authority, attracting clients beyond the immediate need for soot removal. This burgeoning expertise also spurred innovation in tools and techniques. While the basic brush and scraper remained essential, sweeps began experimenting with improved methods for accessing difficult-to-reach areas within chimneys, sometimes employing rudimentary scaffolding or specialized hooks to navigate intricate flues. The increasing demand for these services further incentivized apprenticeships, solidifying a lineage of skilled craftspeople dedicated to maintaining the safety and efficiency of domestic hearths. While the itinerant sweep would not entirely disappear, the emergence of more formalized chimney sweeping businesses signaled an ongoing transition towards a trade characterized by greater specialization and professional standing, a development that would ultimately shape the future of home heating and building maintenance practices.